Okay, ladies, I have to ask you for your patience right off the bat. What a week to have laryngitis. So, I'm just on halls all day today to try to get through this. Thank you for coming. It's so great to see you all here, and I know there's a lot more people coming tomorrow, and there are so many new names on our list this year, so it's so exciting to have you all here. I need my water. I'm just going to clarify something, what Jen said about the shirts, because I have a little more information. So the shirt that I am wearing is actually the one that Carpe Fide designed for Grace Life Church in Edmonton when their pastor, James Coates, was imprisoned earlier this year. And a percentage of the proceeds from this shirt went to that church. The shirt Mom is wearing is for Tim Stevens' church. The quote is taken from a sermon that Tim gave about why his church stayed open. It's an excellent sermon. And all the things that I mentioned today, our favorites, will be on the website within the next couple of days with links so you guys can check them out. So a percentage of the proceeds from that church, from that shirt, went to Tim Stevens' church, Fairview Baptist in Calgary. Now the shirt that Shannon was wearing, the Carpe Fide guys are in South Jersey, which I guess is a much warmer climate than us. So they made longer sleeves for our Canadian churches. And the proceeds from the sale of this shirt is going to Jacob Rayome's church in, I believe it's Waterloo, Ontario, who he was not imprisoned, but their church building was locked for months on end while they weren't allowed in. And I believe some of their church members were ticketed.
And their fines are in the millions.
Yeah, he's stopped even talking about fines for months because I believe they're over $1 million in fines against them that they are challenging in court. They have good representation, but we know things are a little bit crazy right now. So anyway, we do really appreciate the Carpe Fide brothers who have just shown unbelievable support to our Canadian churches that chose to stay open in obedience to Christ and are facing unbelievable, what would you call it? Persecution because of it. So we're really thankful for those guys, and we want to make sure you're aware of them. So I was going to mention that last, but I'm going to say it first. What's the thing we appreciated most? Some of you are new. Every year we tell you some of our favorite things from the last year. It's just a random helter-skelter here and there list of things that we enjoyed. What's the thing that we appreciated most in the past year since we saw you last? Church. Have we ever before known how much we need each other and how much we need to be together, face to face, helping each other, encouraging each other, teaching each other? We just have appreciated our church family so much in the last year. That's why we're so thankful for men like the Carpe Fide guys who also appreciate that and have shown such support for us. And our church has started a new tradition because of that. And we hang around and have lunch on Sunday. Everyone just brings their lunch and we just hang around and we just have such a great time all together. We have a service, we love our service, but then we have relaxed time where we just sit down and just talk about the week, what's going on in our lives, what we're looking forward to, what we're struggling with, and it's been really great. So just going to put that bug in your ear. When you all go home, maybe you can find a way to make a time for your people to get together and have really meaningful conversation, time together, building each other up, because it has meant the world to us, and we know it will continue to mean a lot to us in the future. Okay, these are our prizes that we're going to give away to lucky people tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, everybody will get 10 ballots, and there will be carefully labeled bags, I think, usually it's bags, and you've got 10 ballots. You know, if you really want those goblets, then you put them all in the goblets. If you want to put one in each bag, just go for it. And then later on tomorrow we'll draw and people will get to take them home. All of those ballots will be ready for you in the morning. So today just have a good look over the stuff and decide what you'd like to put your name in for. Okay, I'm going to start with Anomia. A friend told me about this game. And I bought it for my family for Christmas, and we have had a lot of fun. Now, if you've never played it, the premise of the game is everybody takes turns laying a card. And as soon as 2 cards on the table match, you have to come up with 1 word to match a category. You have to be the first person to say a word that matches that category. And you may sit here and think, well, that's not too hard to think of a word. But when the pressure is on, you will be surprised at how hard it is to come up with a kind of pie. You know, something normal every day. And you have to play it to understand it. But we have had a lot of fun with it. So we got you the party edition, which I think has 6 packs of cards in it. So it's going to take you a long time to get through all those words and get familiar with it. So it's a lot of fun, especially for a crowd. And I'll tell you, we homeschool. So even my 10-year-old, and I mean, we are not pop culture up on it kind of people. But my 10-year-old can hold her own in this game. It's amazing how quick kids are. So everyone in my family can play this game and enjoy it. We have a lot of fun. So we're going to give that away to somebody tomorrow. Another thing that I've enjoyed in my home, and I'm used to it now, so I'm always surprised when I have guests and they say, what is that? And then they love it, is a butter bell. Do you know what a butter bell is? It's a little crock, and you put the butter, oh, it's all packed nicely. You pack your soft butter in here, and then you put a little bit of water in here, and you put that in, and you can leave it on your counter, and your butter stays fresh, and it stays soft in the winter, and it doesn't melt in the summer. It is wonderful. It's brilliant. That's a nice big one. I have 2 smaller ones at home. This is a nice bigger one. And you just change, like every 2 or 3 days, you just change the water, refill the butter as you need it, and it is really handy. So we're going to give that to somebody tomorrow. Now the next thing on my list we don't have here yet because apparently someone tried to deliver it to me yesterday and there was no one home, and we're trying to figure out where they have it waiting for us. So if we can figure that out this afternoon, we'll have it for you tomorrow. It's a set of knitting needles. We took up knitting this winter. Tanya is an expert knitter. She's been knitting all her life, and she taught us and our daughters. I will tell you, I know how to knit, but I was self-taught as a child, and so I had a lot of things to relearn this year, and Tanya's been very helpful. But we just had fun. We just got together with our daughters, and we just knitted. And so now we all have a new skill. Some of us have new clothes. We have lots of nice new dishcloths. It's been great. So we're going to have a set of, they're beautiful. I hope I can get them to show you. We're going to have a set of beautiful knitting needles to give to somebody tomorrow. Okay, the next thing on my list is Tanya's favorite lotion. She says this is her favorite scent right now. So if you like hand lotion, body moisturizer, that's the thing to check out. Okay, those of you who've been here before, do you remember Nikki? Our cousin Nikki is still one of our favorite things. Her testimony is on the website. Was it 2018? I'll have it, when I post the favorites page, I'll have a link to it. You have to hear her testimony. She has an amazing story of what God brought her from, and she is very happily living in Africa. It is just her home now, and she loves it there. She's ministering to children, and she's just living truly the life that you would never dream she could live. And it's all because of God's working in her life. Yeah, 2018, Nikki gave her testimony here, and you really need to hear that. So we just wanted to let you know she's in Africa, well settled, and just doing great. Okay, Sarah James painted a couple of signs for us this year. Very talented work. She's got her table out there. You can order custom signs from her. Make sure you talk to her if you'd like some more signs in your life, and we're going to give those away tomorrow. Sarah is Cheryl's daughter. Okay, podcasts. We already told you about Carpe Fide. They are elders in their church in New Jersey. They also do a podcast. Sometimes they just talk between themselves about current issues. Sometimes they interview people. It's really great. We really enjoyed it, so you'll want to check that out. Who's heard of Allie Stuckey? Allie B. Stuckey. Yeah. She is brilliant. Like, Politics is her thing, and she loses me like, politics is not my thing, but when I hear her talk about it, she makes it make sense for me, and I love that. She also talks about lots of current issues, very relevant, very practical, especially for women, the things that we face, the decisions we have to make, trying to navigate the current political climate and cultural climate. So her podcast is called Relatable, and I can't recommend it enough. Sometimes she does interviews too. Okay, this is a favorite of mine, another podcast. We've told you about the Wilson family in other years. Doug Wilson's a pastor in Idaho. They write all kinds of books. He, his wife, his children, all authors. We love their books. But his son writes, what would you call it, Tanya? Almost like
Cross between maybe sci-fi and fantasy.
yeah, like almost like fantasy stuff, but it's almost all, yeah, with not blatantly Christian, but Christian principles and heavy Christian undertones. And these books are intense, and our kids love them. Good, solid reading. He has several series to check out and a few standalone books. And I'll mention those on the page when I get it typed up. But I want to tell you about his podcast. It's called Stories Are Soul Food. And a man named Brian Cole interviews him, and they chat about his writing, why he writes. They chat about other books. I just love it. It really is soul food. It sparks my imagination. It makes me excited to be creative in my ways, in my life. It helps me understand the world around me and how to perceive it, how other people perceive it. I really love this podcast, so I hope you will check that one out.
What's the author's name?
N.D. Wilson, initials, N.D. Okay, another little tidbit about the conference from those of you who've never been here before. I have to tell you this story. It started out as a homeschool conference, and it started largely because Shannon and I went to a homeschool conference in New Brunswick when Sally Clarkson was speaking. And if you know Sally Clarkson, you know why we love her. So we got to go and hear her in person. And one of the things she was discussing, especially that year, was how to build into the lives of other women. Don't just come and get fed yourself, but now go out and get a group started and encourage each other. And all the way home from New Brunswick, Shannon's the extrovert, right? I'm the introvert. I'm the hermit of hermits. So all the way home, Shannon's saying, how can we do this? How can we get groups going? And I'm thinking, I can't. Are you kidding me? I can't talk to people. But I believe this conference is largely, she'd been looking for years for ways to reach out to women and to share with women and to encourage. And I really think that this conference came about largely from what we heard at that conference. So we did homeschooling themes for a couple of years. But then, you know, the things that make a good homeschooler aren't really specific to homeschooling. The things that make you a godly woman are the things that are going to make you a good homeschooler. So we broadened our scope, and we don't speak specifically about homeschooling anymore. Many of us do. If you have homeschooling questions, feel free to ask us. But we want to reach all women because the same truth is available to all women, and we take it and we apply it to our individual situations. So here's one homeschool tidbit for you homeschoolers. We've told you in the past about a spelling program called Spell to Read and Write, and we loved it. I have dyslexic kids. It really was amazing. It got us where we needed to go. But it is unwieldy. It's a big program. It's really a huge adjustment to get used to it, to figure out how to apply it. So we've learned of another program that is built on the same principles, that has a teacher book that you just open to the next page. It tells you what to say. It tells you what to do. Very teacher-friendly, and it's called All About Spelling. If you're looking for a good spelling program, if you have dyslexic kids, I cannot recommend it enough. It will really help to get their brain approaching the words the way it needs to understand how the words are made up, to understand the phonograms and put it all together. I meant to bring mine today. I forgot. I've got it written on my hand, so I will remember tomorrow. If anybody wants to look at the program, I will have a copy for you tomorrow. Okay, I've got some recipes. I have a new gluten-free recipe, gluten and dairy-free. So I have a couple of gluten-free kids. Gluten-free tortillas.
Hey.
Yes, finally. Really simple, easy ingredients. Truly, I make this pretty much every week. We have pizza night once a week. That does not work for gluten and dairy-free kids. So those kids get these tortillas stuffed with yummy stuff. So I'll have that recipe on the website for you. I'm going to share some of my zucchini relish with you at supper for our burgers. It's our family favorite, and it was born out of my complete inability to grow cucumbers, which apparently are the easiest thing in the world to grow, but will not grow. Even though I've moved locations, they still will not grow in my new property, so it is clearly me. But you know what? Who can't grow zucchini? Wow, this might not be the year to discuss it. This was not a good garden year. But I have friends who can grow zucchini, and they're giving me lots. So usually I have lots of big zucchini, so I make really nice relish with it. I'll share the recipe with you. And my friends already are tired of hearing about this, but I bought this book at Frenchie's, and I'm not really plugging the book because I've only made one recipe out of it. It's called Heal Your Gut Cookbook, and I thought we need more healthy recipes, so I'll give it a try. There's a recipe in there for a hot fermented sauce called Hot Mickey, and it has changed my life. True story. So as well as pizza night, we have burger night, and I wait all week for that night so I can put hot Mickey and mayo on my burgers, and there's nothing like it. So I didn't have time to make a new batch, but I brought the last of my last batch to share with the brave tonight. It is hot. If you're used to hot food, it probably won't faze you. If you're not used to heat, you should go easy, okay?
What's the book called?
The book is called The Heal Your Gut Cookbook, and seriously, I got it at Frenchie's. I'm sure they have it on Amazon. But that's the only recipe I've made yet, and that book has a special place on my shelf just because of that recipe. I love it. Okay, do we have, David, can you get Holly's video ready? I don't have to yell, I forgot, got the mic, you can hear me. David's my son, proud mama. So we have a couple of Holly's paintings. Holly Myers lives in Browns Flat, New Brunswick, and she usually comes to our conference because of all the travel craziness. She couldn't get here this year. She's a pastor's wife. She has encouraged, I'm going to cry.
There's Kleenex everywhere.
Yeah. When I was going through a particularly hard parenting time, I can't put into words what she did for me. And she prayed for me, she prayed for my kids, and I just appreciate her so much. She's come and taught here a couple of times in recent years, and she paints. She is an amazing painter, and she just recently launched her own website. So we'll have a link to Holly Myers Art, and this Psalm 23 one is just breathtaking. I wish I'd been fast enough to get the original, but I wasn't. So she sells her originals, and then she sells these beautiful quality prints, and she also, I believe, has paper prints on her website. So here's a Last Supper one. Look at this one. And the thing about Holly's paintings it's not just a painting. Everyone comes with a story, a devotional type journal of what inspired her, what led her to do the painting, and it's never what you expect. She's an out-of-the-box thinker, and I love her perspective. So her paintings aren't just beautiful, but they have that extra something to offer you. So we have a video from Holly for us. Go ahead, David.
Well, as you value and encouragement conference serves. I am really kind of sad that I'm not there with you this year. I really wanted to be there. I was going to bring my daughter with me this year. But as it is, we just are not able to come this year. So there's always next year. There's always hope for next year. So the conference organizers were kind enough to allow me to do this little video greeting with you, just to tell you that I'm there with you in spirit. And I know that you're going to have a great time restoring your souls together as God leads you beside his still waters and makes you lie down in his green pastures together in VWEC. I also want to just thank the organizers for buying a couple of my prints to give to you guys, to give to a couple of people as prizes. The two paintings, the Psalm 23 painting is, of course, Psalm 23. There's so much you could paint in that chapter. But the thing about Psalm 23 that really inspired me to paint that image was the I shall not want part. A lot of us struggle with desires, whether it's material, whether it's spiritual. We all want things. We're saved, but we're still stuck in this flesh. And the lust of the eyes and the lust of the flesh and the boastful pride of life don't allow us to be completely free. And so a lot of times when I find myself wanting and struggling, I just say, I shall not want. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. It doesn't mean I'm not wanting right now, because I am. It means that I won't, I'm not going to. I don't need to. When you think about the gentle shepherd and how perfect he is, we really shouldn't want anything. So that's where the inspiration came for me for that painting. And when you let go of your desires, that's where restoration for your soul happens. That is part of it. Letting go and not wanting anything. And I love that quote where it says, don't hold on, don't let your happiness depend on something that you might lose. So don't want things, don't desire things that are just going to fade away anyway. Cling to your shepherd. So that's the inspiration for that painting. And so I'm just praying that the right person will win that today, that God will put it in your hand if you need that in your home to remind you to not want. And the other one is the Last Supper, which I ended up calling it, Is It I, Lord? Because when I'm reading the passage that inspired me to paint it, it was actually commissioned for a friend, I was struck by all the disciples questioning, is it, when they asked Jesus who was going to betray him, is it me? Is it me? Is it him? Is it her? I don't know. Is it her? And so instead of focusing on the fact that it was somebody else, we need to focus on, am I betraying you in any way? Is there anything in my heart, as David said, search me and try me. See there be any wicked way in me, and renew a right spirit in me. So a lot of times when I see the Last Supper, I don't want to focus on all the other normal things that people think about with it, except maybe, am I betraying Christ in any way? With my words or with my deeds or with my thoughts? Is there any way that I need to clean my heart up so that I can be faithful to him and he'll be pleased with me? And with that confession and that right relationship building, your soul becomes restored. So in the theme of restoration, is it I, Lord? Get yourself right with God. And 2, I shall not want. Stop desiring anything except closeness with him and a deeper relationship, knowing him better. Those 2 things will keep you restored. But you have to do it every day. Every day, restore your soul. Thank you, everybody. I wish I could be there with you. Next year will come soon enough. Have a great time and eat lots of chocolate for me.
Holly is so great. Okay, I need to move along here. I thought I had nothing to say. Ha ha ha. I always have stuff to say, don't I? Okay. I'm going to tell you about some books. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of them here to show you, but we'll have links on the website. So Jen's favorite book this past year was called Unveiling Grace. Have you heard of Lynn Wilder? It's the amazing story of the just amazing salvation of a Mormon family, Mormons of the Mormons. She was a professor at Brigham Young, and how the Lord just invaded their lives. They weren't looking for him. They thought they had what they needed. And the Lord just showed up, sort of, I always think there's so many places in the Bible where God just showed up and someone wasn't looking for him, like in the middle of the road or by the bush when you're wishing you're going to die, in a prison. God just shows up and changes everything. And so this is the amazing story. I believe it started with her son on his mission, and he met a pastor that asked some questions and gave him some information that really got him thinking. So her story is amazing. I've heard her testimony. I haven't read that book yet. I need to read it. But you should definitely check that out. I was supposed to tell you about s'mores. We just thought we'd throw this in, just like a little bonus. We had fun at our house one night. We had a whole bunch of people in, and we had s'mores. And our new favorite thing is Reese's peanut butter cups. Have you ever made a s'more with a peanut butter cup? Especially those new thin ones. You'll never go back. And I put bacon on the buffet. Bacon, you either love it or hate it, but if you love it, you love it. So bacon is a really fun addition to s'mores. So try that sometime. Okay, on to the books. Okay, there's an author named Christine Cohen, and I think she's fairly new. She might have even only written one book, and I think she has another one in the works. This is a kid's book, but you know what? The well-written kids' books are the best books. And so my family listened to The Winter King this past winter, and it was so good. It was suspenseful. The ending was profound and just, again, not blatantly Christian. It wasn't Christianese, right? But when that ending hit, I just thought, this is the gospel as plain as it comes. And it's so relevant to us today because it's about oppressed people. And the answer was right there all along. And they just needed someone to point them to it. Isn't that what the gospel is? The answer is right here. It's right here. It's everywhere, right? God says it's in creation, but we just don't look for it. We're not looking the right way in the right places, and this story is just so good. It's not just for your kids, it's for you too. Really good family read aloud. Okay, Shannon gave me a book for Christmas that is now one of my favorites. I told you about The Layered Garden last year by David Culp. And I just love that book, even just for a coffee table book. Beautiful pictures, but it's just perfect for my property and has given me lots of inspiration. He's written a follow-up called A Year at Brandywine Cottage. Lots of beautiful pictures, lots of just memoir-style writing about what he did and how it's going. Lots of really good recipes interspersed among them. I'll leave it up so you guys can have a look at it. It's a beautiful book. Beholding and Becoming. We have two of these to give away. Have you heard of Ruth Chow Simons? Artist. She does a lot of sayings and scripture. It's just breathtaking. You'll have to come up and flip through the book and have a look at it. But this isn't just art. This is also writing, devotional encouragement style writing. I haven't read the whole thing. I've read bits and pieces. It's one of Shannon's favorites. And she says, no matter where you're coming from, this book will encourage you. So 2 lucky ladies are going to get to take a copy of that tomorrow. The Tuttle Twins. Have you heard of the Tuttle Twins?
Yes.
They're new to me. Tanya's read them. My sister up north is working through them with her kids. And here is what I've been told about them. So after I read this, I need to get these books. The Tuttle Twins series closes the gap, helping parents convey the principles of freedom to their kids in a fun way. Have you noticed in the last 18 months how all the words have been twisted and the definitions are getting changed? And the more they take away from you, the more they tell you you're free and safe and protected. We all need some Tuttle Twins in our life. It says each book in this series focuses on a different aspect of the principles of a free society: the rule of law, free markets, competition, individual rights, the non-aggression principle, personal responsibility, protectionism, and a variety of other issues, all boiled down to core concepts that children of different ages can easily grasp. I need that too, because like I said, I just do not have a natural aptitude for this stuff. So I will be getting a hold of some of those books, and we'll have a link on the website. Okay, the last new book I want to tell you about. My daughter Sarah is going to give her testimony after supper. And one of her favorite books as a teenager was called Stepping Heavenward. It's not a new book. Have you heard of that? Stepping Heavenward. And it's written diary style, and it follows this young woman through her life. It starts out when she's a selfish 16-year-old, and it goes right through, I think, until she's in her 40s. She's dealing with some health issues, and it's the story of her growth from being that selfish 16-year-old to what she learned all the way through her life. And Sarah said she found it so encouraging, even as a teenager, because she saw herself in this young woman, and she couldn't get away from it. It showed her what she was and what she needed to work on. So there's a good book to look for, Stepping Heavenward. And she said that even though it's not presented as an autobiography, it really is. It's largely autobiographical. So the woman who wrote the story was writing from her personal experience, from the things that she struggled with. And I think it's safe to say that we all struggle with mostly the same things. So I think it would encourage all of us. I just want to highlight some books that I grabbed from Cheryl's store that we talked about other years. And so first I have to talk about the Wilsons more. Okay, first off with the Wilsons. The Wilsons do not tell you what to do. They do not give you 5 steps to this, or like a new kid by tomorrow, or 7 steps to the perfect church. They don't. They give you principles, and then you go and apply them. And I love that. It's so freeing. They help you understand what's behind it. What is the foundation? So then you can add the right things onto your foundation. So Productivity is a book about how to be more productive, but instead of telling you how to pack your day so full, he tells you just plod along. And it's amazing what you can get done if you're just plodding along, but being intentional with your plodding. I loved this book. Why Children Matter, my favorite parenting book. Look how small it is. It's not going to tell you what rules to give your children. It's not going to tell you what time they need to go to bed or what food they need to eat. It's not going to tell you, it's just not going to tell you those specifics. What it's going to teach you is that the key to being a good mother is being a good mother. It's not turning out good children. We're going to hear more about that tomorrow. You leave your children to God, and you work on being a good mother and trust Him with the results. This book isn't going to tell you if you do A and B, you'll get C. You won't find that in the Bible. He will give you principles of how to change yourself, and that will flow into your family and your parenting. If I was going to tell you to read one Doug Wilson book, it's this one, Future Men. Future Men, Raising Boys to Fight Giants. It makes you think that it's for how to raise your sons, and it is, but this book is so practical and so relevant. I got so much out of it. Yes, your boys need this, but you need it too. Your daughters need it, your husbands need it. This is my number one Doug Wilson recommend. If you are in the trenches with little children, especially if you feel like you're drowning, which we all tend to at times with our little children, Doug's daughter, Rachel, has written 2 books, Loving the Little Years and Fit to Burst. So good. They truly will help you to focus on loving your kids, enjoying your kids, and not getting tied up with all the struggles and the challenges. They really will be helpful. And Doug's wife, Nancy, also writes. She is more practical and straightforward, which we need. She's also very ouchy. Every book I pick up by her, I seem to forget that, and I start reading and I think, oh dear, this is just cutting a little too close to the quick. Learning Contentment. We just all need, Holly mentioned, we all feel our lacks very, very strongly, don't we? Learning contentment will help you to focus on the right things and be content. Read for the heart. Do you guys have readers? I had a couple kids that are dyslexic. I had a couple kids that I just can't keep up with. They just read so fast. So Sally Clarkson, who I mentioned earlier, her daughter Sarah wrote a book called Read for the Heart. And if you're looking for good reading for your kids, this book is full of suggestions, and a lot of them are in the library. It's categorized several ways, so you can look by age, by genre, by subject. So if you're looking for good reading for your kids, all these books I'm talking about now are in Cheryl's store, so you can check them out. Okay, 4 books that I have not read yet. This was not a reading year for me. They're all in my Audible account, waiting for me to get to listen to them. But people I know have read them and raved about them, so I'm going to tell you about them. Live Not by Lies, a manual for Christian dissidents. I don't think anyone can deny that we're heading towards a totalitarian government society situation here in Canada. And this book will help you to sort through that, to know how do we proceed, what do we stand for, and why. I haven't read it. I've read a lot about it, and I'm looking forward to reading it, and it comes highly recommended. If you're interested in learning more about the social justice movement and how we need to think about that, Christianity and Wokeness by Owen Strachan comes highly recommended. This is a brand new one. Who loves Vodi Bakum? Oh, I love listening to Vodi Bakum. He's such a good teacher. He wrote a book called Fault Lines. It also comes highly recommended. If you don't know him, he's a black man. He knows what he's talking about. And he's helping us understand what's going on in the social justice movement and what should be our response to it. Okay, what else do I want to tell you about? Okay, just 3 things that I mentioned before that I want to remind you about. I still love my Reader's Bible. I told you about this last year. This Bible has no verse numbers. It's written in paragraph form, like the epistles or letters, just like they were written. I wish it didn't have chapter numbers, but I can get over that. It doesn't have subheadings telling you what to think about the next passage you're going to read. It is just the Bible. So you can read it. It flows. You would be, if you weren't here last year, I mentioned that you'd be surprised how much those little numbers stop you up, and how they break up the flow, and how they separate thoughts that aren't supposed to be separated. So I still love this. Pardon me? This comes in several editions. There's a journaling one with lines you can make your own notes in. I'm new to writing in my Bible, so I didn't want that one. It comes in all different covers, so you can check it out. And we highly, highly recommend reading your Bible. We are so blessed in North America to be able to read and have written copies of God's Word, and that is our first recommendation to you. But we understand that there are times and situations in life where you just can't. Either physically, we've known so many people who've dealt with concussions, sometimes you just cannot read. We know some of you are extremely busy and stretched, and either you can't find time to read or you can't find time to read as much as you want. So I listen to audio Bible often. The one I love is on YouTube, and I couldn't see my little phone. I don't have data, so I couldn't see to tell you. It's got a green background. I'll put a link to it on the favorites page. This one, like the Reader's Bible, it goes really quickly and smoothly from one chapter to the next. Some of them have a break, and then they say, Philippians chapter 3, and it breaks your train of thought. But the one that I like just really flows, and you're actually just listening as if God himself is just telling you his story. And when you listen, it is amazing what you notice that you missed when you were reading. Because again, your brain is used to reading those words, and it's got its little patterns, and it just skips to what it knows. So it's amazing what listening does. So if you find yourself in a time of life where it's just so hard to dedicate the time to read, Listening is better than nothing, right? It's still God's word and we need to get it in. And when I gave my testimony a couple of years ago, I told you about the chronological reading plan that God used to jumpstart my Bible study and that I couldn't find it. I found it this year. So I have a tattered copy with me, and I'll put a link on the page so you guys can check it out if you want. I love the chronological because, again, it was like a story. Some chronological plans are really choppy. There's a verse here and a verse there, and some of them just seem a little overkill to me. I don't need to be quite that chronological. I love this plan. It really flows. It gets you through the whole Bible, and you really get the story from the beginning to the end and see how things work together and how they flow. So I'll have a link to that on the website. So I think that is all. Oh, I'm going to tell you about one more thing. It's a big ticket item, but who knows, someone might be looking for a way to spend a little extra money, and maybe you want to ask for one for Christmas. Tanya has a new toy, and we're all drooling over it. Air fryers. This is not your average air fryer. This is a Ninja Foodie 10-in-1 air fryer. It looks like a toaster oven. It sits on your counter, and she can cook a chicken with a tray of vegetables underneath in her air fryer. She makes donuts in it. You can do all kinds of things in this. So I'll have a link to that. Tanya is a researcher. She doesn't just go buy something. She researches and she knows what she's buying, so we can tell you this is a good machine. So I'll have a link to that on the website. So remember in the morning to get your ballots and get your name in for the items that you would like to win. And I am going to quit here. Oh, I forgot to talk about tactics. Okay, I haven't read this one. Some of my family has, some of my friends have. I need this book. We all need this book. Who's familiar with tactics? I don't know if I'm going to say his name right. Kukul? Gregory Kukul wrote Tactics. And here's what it says on the back. Maneuver comfortably and graciously through challenging discussions about Jesus. We need to have good conversations more than ever. Have you noticed people are more intense than they've ever been? People are afraid. People are angry. People are divided. And we need to know how to meet people graciously, how to draw them out, how to have good conversations. So while I haven't read this book, I've heard a lot about it, and I've heard some of the principles from my family and friends who have. So Cheryl has a few of these in her store, and I can't recommend this one enough. Okay, so make sure you get your ballots in the morning to get your name in. I think we're going to have a little break right now, and we're going to come back at 3:30 for our next session. So thank you.